Look at the weather.
It's beautiful here.
Non-stop rain.
Oh, man, it is a blazer out there.
It's cold and it's shivery.
It is cold.
Really coming down here.
I really enjoy your weather reports.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, we're talking weather in a whole new way. From historical events to what's coming up, plus weather news, science, safety, fun facts, and more.
I like where this is going.
This is Weather Weekly. Weather Weekly with Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey.
Episode number 46 here of Weather Weekly, and a special one here only because it is the last podcast episode of 2021. It's been good to have you along for the ride. Vast majority of these podcasts have come from this year. It's been a busy one here for Weather Weekly, and it's sure been fun. I am your host, meteorologist Marcus Bailey, and looking forward to speaking with you. This is going to be a short one. We're on kind of a, we're not on a holiday break, but because it's the holiday, there's not a lot going on. And so just wanted to jump on here and keep the flow going, and just thank everybody for making this a fun podcast and getting all your feedback. Greatly appreciate it over this last year, and we hope for more good things coming our way here in 2022. Quick weather headlines locally, not much. What's interesting, and I'm not going to touch too much on this right now because next week, when we kind of get back into gear here, we'll do what we usually do at the beginning of a month and kind of recap the last month, and we'll look at ahead to what will be January. So that's what we typically do on the first of the month, and that's what we'll do as we kick off the year. And obviously, we'll probably make it an extended episode only because it's the beginning of the year, so we'll kind of look ahead to the year in general, too, in terms of stats. But I think it's important to mention, and we obviously have not wrapped up the month of December as of recording this, but very, very possible here. We are going to get maybe a little bit cooler, a couple of cool days here and there for the end of the week. But as of recording this, and we only have a few more days left in the month of December, it is ranked as the warmest December on record, which is no surprise, right? We have had exceptionally warm days. Just on Monday of this week, we hit the mid-60s. We were at 64. We were 4 off the record. Tuesday was a day full of rain. It was a chilly rain, but we were still hovering into the low 40s. It's still above average. I know that northern parts of the state got snow, but we were still well above average in terms of temperature. So kind of interesting there. And it's something worth watching as we kind of gear up for the end of the week. And we'll talk about this at the end of the podcast, as we typically do when we do the rest of the forecast. But I don't see any significant chill and probably until maybe the 2nd. So that would be too late to really do any damage in terms of bringing us down in terms of temperature. So let me correct myself there. Not the warmest, the 5th warmest. My apologies. The 5th warmest on record at 41.9 as I'm recording this on a Tuesday afternoon. That's the average temperature. The record, 46.2. And that one's going to be safe, I think. We're not going to be warm enough to see those numbers jump too much. We could see it maybe tick up a little bit. We'd have to go another half a degree or so to slide into the 4th spot, a little more than that to get into the 3rd spot. It is the warmest since 2015. That was 42.6 degrees. So again, ranking 5th, not 1st, ranking 5th warmest on record. So correct my mistake there. So that's kind of the big weather headline here. The other one, and I think I'm going to spend probably the body of this, again, in this abbreviated podcast here, on the lack of snow that we've had for the month of December. So far, only a trace of snow. So it's been pretty bleak in terms of snow. We have had, our first kind of measurable snow already, but we have not had much, and certainly not enough to have to worry about any slick roads or anything like that. A lot of the snow that we had ended up just kind of accumulating on grassy areas and that kind of stuff. We'll spend some time on that here after the break. But that's going to be another interesting headline now as we kind of flip the switch into January. And we'll see if we actually flip the switch to some cold. So don't know if you saw this or not necessarily weather related. But it is cool that over the Christmas weekend, NASA launched this most expensive, most advanced telescope called the James Webb Telescope. So it's out in outer space right now and making its trek to where it needs to go. But the telescope, super powerful, way more powerful than the Hubble, which was launched when I was very young, into the 90s. It was the early 90s when that launched. But what's interesting about it, it's so powerful, and what the priority is, it has two big priorities, according to this article that I'm reading from UPI. Two biggest priorities for the Webb telescope are to view galaxies formed about 100 million years after the Big Bang and to scope out exoplanets, planets and other star systems that have atmospheres or signs of life. To this point, and like I said, I'm not an astronomer here. I'm fascinated by astronomy. And I think I've touched on that in previous podcasts, but just the enormity of the universe, right? Sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming when you think about it, and how much we do not know about the universe. I mean, even within our own solar system, we can't travel as humans to check out certain things, right? I mean, we've only been to the moon. We haven't seen with our own eyes Mars, or anything else for that matter. It's all been by satellites. It's taken years to get to. So this is going to be pretty incredible here if the plan plays out, where we're going to get some amazing views of very, very, very distant worlds. So I always found it fascinating. Something always stuck in my mind. As a young kid, I used to go to the planetarium at Ball State, at Cooper Science Building, which later in life I ended up spending a lot of time in for my meteorology degree. But and since has been redone, by the way, and is beautiful. If you're ever up in Muncie, check it out. They built a whole new planetarium off the science building there, and it's awesome. But I remember going to the planetarium as a kid, and I remember one of the things that just always stuck in my mind, that there are millions of stars that we look at in the galaxy that are just, not only a light year, but hundreds, if not more, light years away. And so the way the astronomer explained to us when we were going through some of the shows in the planetarium, he said, when you're looking at many of the stars in the galaxy, many of those don't exist anymore in real time. But the light, because it's so far away, it takes that long to get to us. We're maybe hundreds of years behind what's actually happening. That's how far away those things are. And that's where, again, it can all become very overwhelming, right? So I think it's going to be cool to just kind of see over the years and the decades what this new telescope is going to be able to provide with information. It's going to be really, really cool. So I am intrigued, and I thought I was just going to pass that along, because if you're listening to this podcast, you're some sort of a science nerd. And so while they're not always tied together, and in this case, they're not, obviously, but astronomy is cool. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of the new stuff that's going to be coming down from that, hopefully in the not too distant future. But obviously, space is big. It takes a lot of time to get things set up and get things rolling. So after the break, we're going to talk about, I wanted to, I was just kind of talk about what I want to do with my podcast here today. And, the first thing that popped into my head was, we didn't have a white Christmas, and we talked about that in the last podcast, but it just really has been a very bleak snow season so far, right? I mean, we haven't had anything. So I wanted to kind of look back on the least snowiest Decembers and then what happened. Now, I'll caution this that that doesn't always correlate. But I wanted to look at some of the least snowy Decembers and see where we ended up by the end of the winter season in terms of snowfall. And did we get any big snows or anything like that? So we're going to spend some time on that. And that's coming up next year on Weather Weekly.
Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire. You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
All right, episode number 46, and good to have you along here. So what we wanted to spend time on for this last one of the year, I thought it would be fun. This is going to be kind of a quick one here, but I did look at some stats. Was the lack of snow that we've had here for the month of December. And then I wanted to kind of compare it to what ended up happening later that season. Now, again, I think it's important to bring this up just because some of those years, better way to put it, these don't necessarily correlate, but I do think it's interesting to see. I think where we should start here first is where we should be for the month of December in terms of snowfall. So December, and we talked about this at the beginning of the month, it is the second snowiest month on average, 6.4 inches of snow. Okay, next month, January, is typically the snowiest at 8.8. All right, so let's go back here. And what I want to do, and what I'm looking at some of the rankings here. I'm going to exclude many of the 1800 ones here because they are missing a lot of data. Okay. So basically, we are kind of tied for first. There's 1 year in 1889 that doesn't have a missing count that had 0 inches of snowfall for the month of December. But I'm going to exclude that one. All right. I am going to start. Obviously, where I should begin is we've only picked up a trace of snow so far. Okay. Recording this on the 28th of December. Today, we've only picked up a trace of snow in Indianapolis. I think that's important to know. I know we have people that are in other areas, and you may have gotten a little bit of snow, but officially in Indianapolis, we've only picked up a trace of snow. The last time we only had a trace, and I'll tell you, it looks pretty good that we won't get any more than a trace. Too mild. Not much more precip chances here for the end of the year after this Tuesday into Wednesday system, or Wednesday night system, I should say. And again, it's going to be too mild for it to be anything other than rain. So last time that we only picked up around a trace was 1940. We've done it a couple of times. 1940 and 1931. So if I'm looking at the record books here, so 1940, December of 1940, we ended up with only 10 inches of snow by the end of the season. So that's obviously well below average. Okay. And then I said 1931. 1931, we only finished with 5.9 inches of snow. 5.9. One of the least amount of snow, I believe, that we've ever had. Yes, would rank as the third least snowiest winter or snow season, I should say, on record in Indianapolis was 1931, 1932. Okay, so those are only that is so. This is the third. 2021 is the third December where we've only picked up a trace of snow. This is the least amount of snow that we've had since 2014. 2014 to in the month of December, we ended up with 0.1, so a tenth of an inch of snowfall. That winter, so 2014, 2015, that was the winter after the real big winter. All right, so 25.6. I remember this one because this was the winter that I moved to Indianapolis. So we had just had that awful winter the year before, both where I came from, Peoria, Illinois, and here in Indianapolis. The winter before, 2013, 2014, we had 55.7 inches of snow. The following winter was a little bit more average, but what I remember about it, because I was helping out on weekends before I was officially hired. I was still working in Peoria, but I was coming here on weekends to help out on Sunday mornings. And every Sunday, it seemed like for the month of February, we had snow. Because Ken Brewer would come in and help out, because that was just protocol. It wasn't that he didn't feel like I could do the job. It was a protocol at Wish TV, and it still is to this day. If you've got a significant snowfall, and significant is kind of, at our own discretion, but if it's going to be an impactful snowfall, you want to have two Mets on board, right? Kind of handles maybe some traffic stuff or maybe some live shots outside, but you just want to have kind of a bigger feel, right? Something a little bit more than ordinary that you would have. And I was hired as the weekend morning meteorologist at the time. So he came in to help out with that. And it seemed like almost all of the Sundays I was there, he was there with me because of the snow. So it ended up being 25.6 inches of snow. So that ended up being right where we should be. All right. So that was the most recent really dry December in terms of snowfall. Then you go back to 1941, 42, we only ended with 8.8 inches of snow. In 1896, we do have all of the records here. 1896, 1897, we had 29.6. That's after only getting a tenth of snow, a tenth of an inch of snow for the month of December. And I'm just going to kind of go down a little bit here. I mean, I could go down the list. There's a whole lot more, but I'll look at some other interesting ones here. 1991, so the winter of 91-92, we picked up only 14.7 inches of snow. That was after 0.2 of an inch of snow for the month of December. In 1979 and 80, we picked up 24.8 inches of snow. That was after, again, 0.2 of an inch of snow for the month of December. We'll do a couple more here. 1982, we had 0.4. The winter of 82-83 was 7 inches, 7.1 officially. And 1970, we had, let me go to 71. So it's interesting. 1970 and 71, both Decembers, we had exactly 0.4. That's weird how that worked out. We had 0.4 of an inch both of those Decembers. So I'll start with 1970. 70 to 71, 13.1 inches. 71 to 72, 19.9 inches of snow. So yeah, very interesting. All right, so both of those, 70 and 71, those Decembers led to fairly light snowfall when it was all said and done. Let me see if I can find another recent one. Okay, 2018, we had about a half an inch of snow. And we ended up that year, 2018, 2019, with 19.4. Not bad, but still below average. And then the last one that we'll do, 2015, we had 0.6 of an inch. 2015, and that year, 2015, 2016, 13.3. So, 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13.3. 13. if you were kind of keeping tabs there, the majority of the Decembers that I mentioned there, and I went down the list. I don't think I skipped many, and I almost did all of them where we were under 1 inch of snowfall. I left out a few, just randomly. I left out a few, but majority of those equated to below average snowfall for the snow season by the end of the year. And I did not just factor in December, January, February, but this was the entire snow season. So that means if we had snow in March or April in any of those years, or even in November, okay, then that was also included in that as well. So does that mean we're going to have below average snowfall? No, but we're already kind of digging ourselves a hole. But again, go back to the podcast I did 2 weeks ago with Mike Ryan from the Weather Service. This seems to kind of be the trend. Let me flip this here, and I'm just going to go by year on how we've done with snow. Let's just go the past 10. All right, and again, with keeping in mind that we averaged nearly 6.5 inches of snow for the month of December. This year, only a trace. Last year, 2020, 2.5 inches of snow. 2019, we had a little bit more, 7.6. 2018 was bleak, 0.5. 2017, below average, 3.9. 2016 below average, 4.9. 2015, 0.6. 2014, 0.1. You have to go all the way back to 2013 when we're back to above average at 8.8. 2012, we had 14.8. So both of those were above average, but then back to below average in 2011 at 2.3. In 2010, well above average. One of the snowier Decembers that we've had at 16.6. So the vast majority, I'm counting here, out of 10, 1, 2, 3. So 30%, no, I'm sorry, 4. 40%. 40% of our snows for December total have been above average. Okay? A couple of them were well above average. We also had more than that have been well below. I'm counting the trace this year. I'm counting the half inch in 18, the half an inch in 15, the 1/10 of an inch in 14. All right. So 40% went above average, but also 40% went not only below average, but well below average. All right. So to my point, what I was making, when you go back to that podcast and when Mike Ryan was talking about that, you're starting to maybe see a shift, right? To maybe a later winter, a later fall, a later start to winter. And we certainly felt the effects of that, not only snow-wise, but temperature-wise. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Again, there's no direct correlation. I did this mainly because I thought it would be a fun kind of exercise to just see, what happened then and what happened now. If you want to play statistics, and if you were a betting person, you could bet on something like this. The odds would say, chances are we might end up looking at below average snowfall. But again, it just takes that one, right? It just takes that one. We had a big one last year. You get one of those, your average is much more within reach if you can kind of nickel and dime the rest of the way through February and early March. So we will see. There are no signs of snow on the horizon as of right now, but we know it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. I'll bring this up, and I mentioned this, I mention this every year when people are like, well, we're not going to get any snow. There has never been a year in recorded history that we have not, or that we've recorded no snow. In fact, there's never been a year in Indianapolis in recorded history that we haven't had several inches of snow reported. The lowest snow amounts that we've had for a year, okay? 1918, 1919, 5.5 inches. 49.50, 5.8, 31.32, 5.9, 34.35, 6.2, and 82.83, 7.1. Those are your top 5. 5.5 is the lowest that we've ever had. So we will get snow. We will get snow. Again, we're going to be digging ourselves out of a hole a little bit because we're starting things late. But again, I say it, Mike Ryan said it, anybody that we've talked about snow on this podcast has said it. It just takes the one that can really right the ship in terms of getting you back to average. So we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe you're looking forward to it. A lot of you that I see on Facebook, the snow you wanted was supposed to happen last weekend during Christmas. And since that's already come and gone, you're probably ready to just move on to spring. But we still got a long way to go. We'll see if we have any snow chances coming up in the last forecast of 2021. That's coming up next year on Weather Weekly. All right, last forecast of 2021 here for the podcast, and not a bad one here for the last few days of 2021. As we drop this podcast here on a Wednesday, should be relatively quiet until the evening and overnight hours. Rain returns. But I think Thursday and Friday are going to be pretty good. Specifically, heading into New Year's Eve, I think we're going to be looking at mid-50s. So a mild end to the month of December. Why not, right? I mean, it's been pretty much the case for most of the month. And we're going to stay pretty mild all through the afternoon and evening hours. So if you do have some New Year's Eve festivities, you should be pretty good to go. Looks like we may have some rain arriving after midnight. So after you ring in the new year, you may have a little bit of rain to contend with for the drive back home. New Year's Day looks wet. I think still pretty mild, but that's going to be a real potent system. And I'll say this. There are some questions, and obviously if you're going to be listening to this a little bit later, hopefully those questions are answered. But if you're listening to this the day that this drops on Wednesday, there's a couple of model solutions that may bring in a little bit of snow accumulation to northern parts of the state. But again, that remains to be seen. A lot of that depends on track. There's one that says it's going to end up being all rain for the state. There's one that's saying that you could kind of split the state in half a little bit and get some snow accumulation for the northern half. So we'll see. But what is clear is we do flip the temperature pattern here pretty quickly. We go from the mid-50s or at least low 50s on New Year's Day to Sunday, barely getting to freezing, and we could have, again, some lingering snow showers on the back end of that Saturday system. And it looks like we're going to stay kind of chilly, at least for the early part of the week, next week as well, with numbers in the upper 20s and low 30s heading into that first full week of the year. The 6 to 10 day outlook kind of has us at near normal but above average precipitation, and that would just kind of roll on onto what we've had with this very active pattern. The 8 to 14 day outlook puts us at a minimal shot for below average temperatures and a good shot for above average precipitation. So it does look like at least through the 11th of the month, we're going to be looking at probably a very active weather pattern. Now, that opens the door potentially, maybe for some snow. It just depends on if we mesh that with cold, because that's what's been missing. We've had several rains. We've had some thunderstorm, complexes coming in here because we have been so extraordinarily warm. Will this track hold as colder air tries to work down from Canada? That's going to be the big question. And if that is indeed the case, then we could be talking about the potential for maybe some snow chances. The 1 month outlook, this would be the January outlook, by the way. This was issued mid-December. So they'll be putting one out here at, I believe, the end of the week, an updated January outlook. But right now, above average precipitation and equal chances to go above or below temperature. So still some, and that's where the question's going to be, right? So we feel a little more certain that it's going to be the pattern staying active. Now we just kind of got to see which way those temperatures are going to go. If you're a snow lover, pay attention because the opportunities might be there. It's just going to be a matter of if we can get that cold air to dive on down. Thank you so much for making this a great year. 2021, it's been great. This is my first podcast, ever had a crack at it. And, I feel like we're getting into a flow here. Want to get some more interviews going on, hopefully in the new year. But definitely want to hear your feedback as well. I've had a lot of good feedback in terms of what you want to hear, topics that you want discussed, people that you want me to talk to. Shoot me an email, marcus.bailey@wishtv.com, or you can reach out to me on social media media at Marcus Bailey Weather on Facebook and at Marcus Bailey on Twitter and Instagram. We'll get you there. My thanks to everybody that's helped to make this this podcast great. All the interviews that we've had. My coworker, meteorologist Stephen Deanna, he's been on a lot of them as well. Stephen, I know you're listening. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. You're awesome. And we'll have you back here coming up hopefully pretty soon here to gear up for 2022. God bless you guys. Have a happy and safe new year. Take it easy out there. Hopefully you'll enjoy the mild temperatures here for the end of the week. And thanks for always listening and being a fan of Wish TV and the Weather Weekly podcast. It means more to me than you know. I appreciate you guys. Make sure while you're here, you check out all the other great podcasts, all part of the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Discover more from Storm Track 8 Weather and Wish TV. Online at wishtv.com and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to check out more great podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.